Chapter 6, The Cellar. The key felt heavier than it should have. Nesrine turned it over in her hand as she and Arthur stood at the threshold of the narrow door at the back of the kitchen. A door so unremarkable it had almost escaped her notice. The wood was swollen with damp, the paint peeling in long, curling strips. A faint draft seeped from the gap beneath it, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of earth and something older. Arthur watched her closely. "You're sure this is it?" "Yes," she said. "The house has been pointing us here since we arrived." He didn't argue. He had begun to understand that Birkin House communicated in its own language, a language Nesrine seemed increasingly fluent in. She slid the key into the lock. It turned with a soft, reluctant click. The door opened onto darkness. A cold breath of air rose from below, brushing their faces like the exhale of something long buried. Nesrine switched on her torch, the beam cutting a narrow path down a steep stone staircase. The walls were rough, carved directly into the cliffside, glistening with moisture. Arthur descended first, his boots echoing softly. Nesrine followed, the beam of her torch steady despite the tightening in her chest. The air grew colder with each step, the smell of damp earth thickening. At the bottom, the staircase opened into a low, vaulted cellar. It was larger than she expected, almost cavernous, with stone pillars supporting the ceiling and shelves lining the walls. Dust lay thick on most surfaces, but not all. Some areas had been disturbed recently. Arthur swept his torch across the room. "Someone's been living down here." Nesrine nodded. A narrow cot sat in one corner, its blanket neatly folded. A small table held a stack of notebooks, their covers worn, their pages swollen with damp. A single candle had burned down to a stub, wax pooled like frozen tears. But it was the far wall that drew Nesrine's attention. A mural covered the stone, a sprawling, chaotic collage of charcoal sketches layered over one another, faces mostly. 5 faces repeated again and again, drawn with varying degrees of care and violence. Sometimes they were smiling, sometimes screaming, sometimes crossed out entirely, and always at the edge of each cluster, a 6th face, half-formed, fading, erased. Arthur stepped closer, his breath catching. "He drew them." "All of them," Nesrine said, "over and over." Arthur traced the outline of one of the faces, a woman with sharp cheekbones and a soft smile. "This is one of the victims." "Yes." "And this," he pointed to the half-erased figure beside her, "is him." Nesrine nodded. He couldn't decide whether he wanted to be part of them or destroy them. Arthur turned to her. "This is obsession." "This is identity," she corrected, "or the lack of one." She moved to the table and opened the top notebook. The pages were filled with cramped handwriting, confessions, fragments of memory, lists of grievances, pleas for recognition. "They never saw me. I was always the shadow. She saw them. She never saw me. I will make them look at me. I will make them remember." Arthur read over her shoulder, his jaw tightening. He was unraveling. "No," Nesrine said softly. He was constructing something, a narrative, a justification. She flipped to the final page. A single sentence filled the center, written in a hand steadier than the rest. "We began together. We end together." Arthur exhaled. "He planned it all." "Yes," Nesrine said. "But this," she gestured to the mural, the notebooks, the cot. "This is where he lived. Not upstairs, not with them. Down here, in the dark." Arthur looked around the cellar, his expression shifting from curiosity to something like sorrow. "He was already buried," he said. Nesrine closed the notebook gently. "And they never noticed." A faint sound echoed through the cellar, a soft, rhythmic tapping. Arthur stiffened, turning toward the staircase. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Nesrine said. The tapping continued, slow, deliberate, coming from somewhere above them. Arthur's voice dropped. "Someone's in the house." Nesrine extinguished her torch. Darkness swallowed them. The tapping stopped. For a moment, the cellar held its breath. Then from the top of the stairs, a voice drifted down. Calm, familiar, threaded with something that made Nesrine's skin prickle. "You shouldn't be down there." Arthur's hand found her arm. Nesrine whispered, "He's back." The house, listening as always, seemed to tighten around them, and above the sixth guest waited.